Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone. I would like to say Happy Valentine's Day to everyone out there, all you American Gods fans. I hope your hearts are nice and squishy for tonight. Sending love and affection to everyone out there, and I hope you're having a warm and companionable day. So I would like to dedicate this recap to Bilquist because we're seeing a lot of her right now, and to the amazing Yetide Badaki, who is one of my favorite Galentines who plays Bilquist. Don't forget, at 8 o'clock tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, I will be doing a live chat on my @theemilyesse Twitter account, hashtag AGChat with WMMNSU. Feel free to stop by and chat with me. So as I have been doing, I'd like to start with a couple of recommendations, not related to American Gods, but super fun and interesting. And I like to support a lot of different artists and creators. And so this is another session of support your artists and creators. So a couple of friends of mine who do some really great stuff, Cuddles and Rage. This is one of their books. It's called Bites of Terror. And it's kind of a pastiche of stories that reference classic horror. And they do a number of different stories, both for adults and for kids. The main thing that makes them really interesting is that they do everything with dioramas of like clay items that they make themselves and then put into these dioramas that they photograph, and then they look like comics. So that's really cool, and you can see some of that set up there. They also sell some of these clay figures. I got a really, really cute little happy Yule log for my Christmas tree this year, and they sell postcards and cards and different stuff like that on their Etsy store. But what really is fun about them is the little clay things they make, and the stories are really cute, but they also have a kind of dark humor that I enjoy. Being a fan of things like Deadpool, that kind of dark, humorous edge to things is really fun. So if you haven't checked them out, check them out. They're super talented and nice people. The other one I want to recommend tonight is The Goes Wrong Show on Amazon Prime. It is absolutely hilarious. One of the things I've laughed the hardest at during this whole weird pandemic time we're in. Done by a group of comedian actors who also did the play that goes wrong in theaters live, and Broadway Goes Wrong on Broadway. And basically it's like a group of community theater actors who's putting on a weekly play, and then things go wrong. And they go wrong differently every week, and it's just so much fun. But during this time of pandemic and staying inside, they're also doing live streams through Mischief Comedy, and you can watch and give suggestions on Twitter and on Facebook, and they will then take those suggestions and make a live improv on the live stream with your suggestions for what kind of story it is, and titles and characters and things like that. So we've done a few of these where we've watched, and one in which we participated in the Zoom crowd, because you can get the extra ticket to do that. And they're so much fun, and they're a great thing to do when you can't go to the theater and you just want to have a little fun. So there's a couple of recommendations for you. Good stuff, fun stuff, kind of dark stuff occasionally. And then going on to American Gods, if you haven't caught it, I want to recommend the Moon Mondays Instagram Live with Ricky Whittle. He has been going on his Instagram Live at 1 o'clock Eastern on Mondays and talking with other people who are on the show or working on the show. So this last one was with, as you can see there, Horizon Guardiola. And she's at Horizon_Fawn on Instagram. And she is the musician and actress who plays Oshun on American Gods. So we saw her this past episode I'm going to be talking about, and they had a great conversation on Moon Monday this past Monday. And every one of them has been fun. The upcoming one is with Bruce Langley, who plays Tech Boy. So I'm really looking forward to that because I love Tech Boy and I love their interactions. One of the great things that was part of this past Moon Monday was Ricky was referencing the Mr. Wednesday quote from the story that America is the only country that doesn't know what it is and is preoccupied with finding it out. And he said, very apropos, he said, you know, in 2020, he thinks that America got its first look in the mirror and at what it is, and it didn't really like it. And you can't really disagree too much with that, given everything that's going on. But I just think they talked about, you know, Horizon's music and her playing of Oshun and all of the different things that went into her part in the story so far and what we're going to see. And he goes through this with everybody that he gets on the Instagram. He's a great host. Obviously, you know, if you've ever seen him talking in the interviews. So it's really fun and you should check it out. So now we're going to go on to the recap of season 3, episode 4 of American Gods. So this cold open was very powerful. You know, Ibis is writing about history and the Constitution, a subject that's very apropos right now. And we get flashes back to the introduction of the Orishas, who were worshipped by many who were brought to America as slaves. And so we get a vignette about African Americans living in slavery on a cotton plantation and the strength they find from their faith in the Orishas. It's a really powerful historical piece, and it builds a great foundation for the later appearance in the episode of Oshun, because Oshun, but the episode of Oshun when we see her later on. And we've got some great singing and a couple of musical actors because, as mentioned, Horizon is a musician, a singer-songwriter, and we also see the rapper Whale as Shango. And then we also get Karen Glaive and Bridget Ogundeep as a couple of the other Orisha. So that's a really powerful cold open. And this episode has a lot to do with Bilquist and a lot to do with her foundations. So that's a really apropos way to open it all up. So in the present, we're then back in Bilquist's apartment, which was once beautiful and is now full of blood. And so we've got a big old mess going on there. And Shadow finds Tech Boy, and Tech Boy is glitching, and there is clearly something going on. There's something wrong with him. He's just a mess. And Shadow just like throws him across the room. And so the question is Tech Boy really light, or is Shadow getting stronger as part of his heritage? And my guess would be it could be both, you know, because Tech Boy is kind of insubstantial. He can change at will and everything. And maybe Shadow is getting stronger, and maybe some of his, you know, genes are coming into play. But either way, he throws him across the wall, and he's really like threatening him. And Shadow's trying to figure out what happened to Bilquist. And it has something to do with Bill Sanders, the tech billionaire philanthropist, you know, the kind of Bill Gates or Steve Jobs figure that we saw in an earlier episode that Bilquist absorbed and then made her ill. And so at this point, we get a flashback to Bilquist being abducted from the apartment. And it's really uncomfortable to watch because, you know, it's violent and they're pulling her around and she's, you know, fighting back really well. She gets in a huge kick and she slices one of them with a weapon that's concealed in her peacock fan. And there's just blood everywhere that's not hers. But then they get, they inject her with a drug, so they're able to pull her out of the room and take her away. But yeah, it's like, it's super uncomfortable to watch these people like throwing her around and stuff, even though she's getting in a good fight until they bring out the drugs. So at this point, you know, Shadow's like, you know, I'm going to go find her. And Tech Boy's like, I'm coming with you, team up. And Shadow's like, I don't think so. And so then Tech Boy absorbs the phone of Bill Sanders. And so then he's got the information that Shadow needs. So Shadow has to take him along. So, you know, a little bit of cleverness and childishness from Tech Boy right there. So at that point, and also there's something that happens where like a phone message comes out of his mouth, which is a really cool effect. And honestly, I don't quite remember what it said. So given that Super Bowl was last weekend and this was 2 weeks ago, I apologize if there are a couple of moments where I'm like, what exactly happened there? But there was something that, you know, tied into what was going on. And Shadow was like, okay, clearly we need to bring you along because you have information within you now that we need. So they're wondering where Bilquist is. We see where Bilquist is. She is in a cell all by herself. And she is alone and she's scared. But she is praying. Even though she is a goddess, she's also praying, and she is saying that she's not alone and chooses to believe that. And it echoes the prayers and words that we saw in the cold open that were part of the Orisha, faith in the Orishas that we saw earlier. And she says, I have love, you know, I choose to believe that I'm not alone. Again, this whole thing, the whole through line with Bilquist and the Orishas is very powerful. And it's really one of my favorite things we've seen so far this season. Although, I mean, I will never say no to, you know, Mr. Wednesday in his this season garb of the, what is it? The, you know, ski instructor on vacation in a warm climate or whatever I said it was. but this is, I mean, like, it's a really powerful storyline, and we're getting a lot of really interesting bits of Bilquist. And we don't have any of this in the book. You know, Bilquist is not as big a character in the book, and a lot of this episode is off book, so to speak. So, you know, if you're reading the original or even the newer edition, the 10th anniversary edition, there's some things in here that are just going off from what's in the story. Although my understanding is that, you know, Neil was involved in crafting what's happening here and making sure it stays within the realm of the book story. So we, again, have more storyline that we didn't see as much of in the book, which is Mad Sweeney and Laura. So Mad Sweeney's body is still in that graveyard crypt, and Laura is still in purgatory. And we see, you know, that he's still there. She's still in purgatory. She's being Laura. So, like, when someone gets up from a seat, she's like, "Oh, that's my seat. That's my seat." Like, she never gives up on being totally Laura, which I appreciate because it's fun. And you know, she's trying to figure out if Mad Sweeney is down there with her, like his spirit is down there or whatever. And it's pretty funny because then this like woman's like, "Oh, is this the guy that you had the hots for?" And she's like, "No," and it's like 4th grade basically. And I mean, like, whoever chose to do these romantic movie flashback things, like the, you know, you get the music and these like images of Sweeney sitting in the field of lavender and all this stuff, and it's like really cheesy, but in the funniest way, where it's like, oh, now she's remembering all these moments with him, and then she's like, no, I don't like him, you know, it's not, I don't like him. So it's very funny, and I appreciate the bits of, you know, humor and romance. I don't know if it's really romance, but it's pretty good. So we get Laura, and she's looking for Sweeney, and he ain't there. And then Wednesday and Cordelia are still together. They're still a team up pals, you know, thing, doing whatever they're doing, trying to figure out how to get Demeter out of this weird retreat with the conservator who put her in there because she was dancing naked in the streets, and who, I don't even know all the backstory because we haven't found out everything about them yet. But they're basically trying to figure out what's going on, and they think her conservator is shady, and they're trying to hack into his accounts, and Cordelia is, you know, apparently a hacking genius. So they're doing that somewhere in a diner because like half this, you know, season takes place in diners, half the show. And meanwhile, we're back with Tech Boy and Shadow, and a lot of this story is flagged. You know, the 3 main storylines are Tech Boy and Shadow, and they're looking for Bilquist. What Bilquist is doing, you know, trying to hang in there by herself, and then Wednesday and Cordelia going forward, and then Laura and her Mad Sweeney story over here, or her soul and everything. So there's 4 different storylines going on, and in this one, you know, Shadow and Tech Boy, they're trying to figure out what happened. Tech Boy IDs one of Sanders's minions' cars. Shadow like pulls one of them out of the car, and they're gonna figure out what's going on. And they basically, they start, you know, interrogating this guy, and it turns out these people aren't connected to Mr. World. They're just human beings who are trying to figure out what happened to Bill Sanders, or some, you know, portion of whatever their job would be if he disappears. And so Shadow and Tech Boy are trying to figure out what's going on, and I think the people that they've abducted probably don't know everything that's going on either. And while this is going on, Wednesday and Cordelia decide that they need Shadow to help out. Well, Wednesday does. He's like, I want to call my son. He needs to help out. So they call him on like burner phones or something. There's a bit of numerology going on about 3s and 7s being very powerful in mythology, which is, you know, a long time true thing. I didn't quite follow how they got Shadow's phone number out of knowing these things, but fair. I don't. You know, it's okay if you don't catch every single thing that's going on in the show, because there's a lot that happens in every episode. But the essential thing is, like, somehow Wednesday can figure out what Shadow's number is by knowing certain numerology. And Cordelia's a genius, so she catches on. So they call Shadow, and they're like, we need your help to get Demeter. This is really important. And Shadow's like, I'm busy right now. Sorry, Dad. Boop. And he hangs up the phone, and he's like, I have to find Bilquist. That's the thing I want to do, and I don't care about you. Anyway, so meanwhile, Tech Boy is over there losing his shit, losing everything. He's pardon me, he's going crazy. He's like, you know, threatening everybody, like he's gonna burn them with kerosene. These human beings who, you know, they're trying to figure out what they know, and he's like, I'm gonna burn you with kerosene. And Shadow's like, I'm gonna need you to bring it down to like a 2. And Tech Boy is okay, you know, kind of calms down. But Shadow also uses Tech Boy's weird, glitchy, crazy face stuff to intimidate the ordinary humans that they're interrogating. And so Tech Boy, like, kind of, his face goes nuts and turns into that kind of pixelated, digitized thing that he does sometimes. And it's a really fun effect anyway, so I enjoy seeing when Tech Boy goes crazy. So that definitely scares them a little bit. So while they're trying to find Bilquist, we see what Bilquist is up to, and Ms. World is like, okay, where is Bilquist? Because they have, you know, Mr. World has an agreement of some sort with Bilquist earlier on, where she was supposed to be trying to turn the old gods to the ways of the new gods. And that was like the last season. And this season, she's been more neutral. And so she's kind of, you know, going back on her deal with them. And so they want to know what's going on. So Ms. World is like, all right, what's going on? And she goes and finds these Bill Sanders minions who are holding Bilquist. And she's going to go talk to Bilquist, but turns back into the Crispin Glover Mr. World to do so. I assume that's because, like, she hadn't met Bilquist as Ms. World before. Not quite clear, but anyway, it's fun to see the whole change and everything. So, you know, they have a little conversation about their previous agreement and everything, and Bilquist is not, she's not having it, and she's obviously also not happy to be in this cell, but it's not clear to me whether she thinks that that's, I don't know if she knows who's holding her prisoner. I don't know if she knows that it's part of this other, the Bill Sanders group, or Mr. World. So, but she's in the cell, and she's not inclined to, you know, chat with Mr. World very much. In the meantime, we go back to Laura and Matt Sweeney, and there's someone who's cleaning up the crypt and breaks the voodoo vial that Laura got in one of the previous episodes. So I apologize if I don't remember which episode it was, but Laura and Matt Sweeney went down to New Orleans because Sweeney said that he knew somebody who could make her live again. And they met a couple of voodoo gods and goddesses. And Baron Saturday, I assume, was one of them, Samedi. And he gave a potion that would work if it was mixed with the blood of a true love. And Laura was like, oh, what am I going to do with that? Because, like, you know, her relationship with Shadow's kind of crazy right now. And, you know, where's she going to get some blood of someone who truly loves her, or she truly loves? And it's going to be hard. And Shadow's all the way over there somewhere. But in that same episode, she and Mad Sweeney got together. And so at this point, the guy who's cleaning out the crypt breaks the voodoo vial, and it mixes with Sweeney's blood, which clearly is the blood of true love. Oh, happy Valentine's Day, everyone. And in Purgatory, Laura is trying to figure out this song that she remembers from her childhood that I did not recognize it, but I did look it up, and somebody else identified it as Schweiger's Requiem of Balder, or maybe somebody in the episode did, but whatever the case, apparently that's the song, so to speak. I assume that's correct. And the guide who had been in the movie theater where she was watching her life in Purgatory says to her that, you know, she has a powerful destiny, and that means she's going to attract powerful enemies. And then as he's just told her this, you know, the vial gets stepped on, the blood mixes with it. Whoosh, Laura gets pulled right out of Purgatory, and the guide looks around and is like, did anybody else see that? Which makes me think that doesn't happen every day, obviously. And so suddenly she's back in the crypt, and she's naked, and she's like, what is going on? And there's a priest there. I think that's who was cleaning out the place, was this priest. And, you know, he tells her that Sweeney's was still dead and had been taken away. And the coin is still there. And we see that the coin is kind of like half tucked under the crypt that's in there. And it looks like she sees it too. So she's there. She's naked in a crypt somewhere. Meanwhile, Mr. Wednesday is over in a bar with the what is it, like Knights of Valhalla or Riders of Valhalla. It's like a biker bar, and the bar is called Valhalla, and he's there, and there's this issue going on with Johan, who's a berserker, and you know, Codicil here played by Marilyn Manson. And I'm not going to go into detail about the allegations that have come out since this episode aired, but Starz has distanced themselves from Manson at this point. And that's I believe the allegations that have come out. So that's all I'll say about that. But in this episode, we have Johan, and then Wednesday, they're having a back and forth, and it's clear that, there's a power struggle going on. And it's a little unclear to me, honestly, what role he plays in things. But the next thing that happens is the bar burns down. So we're going to get to that in a minute. But they're kind of having a power struggle, and he's causing problems, and Wednesday's supposed to kind of get him out of the bar. So they have a back and forth and a little power play going on. Meanwhile, World and Bilquist are still talking about, their deal and how she's not holding up her end of it. And Bilquist says, what transpires between me and my worshippers is none of your concern. And she's got power, even though she's in this cell, and she's not technically got power. She's a captive, but she's still got strength, inner strength and internal power. Gosh, this is a long episode. I'm going to try and go through the rest of it real quick. So back to the bar. The bar is on fire. The bar explodes, and Wednesday is running through the streets. He pulls off his clothes. He's reciting poetry. He looks very insane. He's running through the streets naked. And I don't know if it's real or if this is supposed to be so he can get into the retreat where Demeter is, because as we'll recall from the previous episode, she was put into the conservatorship, and the retreat, because for one of the things was she was running through the streets naked. So he's going nuts. He's in an ambulance. Cordelia's with him. She's calling Shadow to come and get him. And I don't know if it's real or not, but it's very funny. It's really funny. And at the same time, we go back to Bilquist. The minions of Bill Sanders are trying to torture her by playing this loud tech music. And that's an unfortunate reference to real torture techniques that my understanding is are used on prisoners. And she's obviously suffering. And then there's this the best part of this story, honestly, even though I love the Shadow and Tech Boy kind of team up and everything, there's this amazing scene where she cries and there's a crack in the floor from her tear and it forms a pool, and Oshun appears and they talk to each other and they say something that was in the opening with the worshippers of the Orisha, which is I is we, we're stronger together. And then Oshun and Bilquist do this amazing partnership dance that reminds Bilquist who she is. Oshun implies that Bilquist has a deeper history, the way that Mad Sweeney in his episode where he remembered various past versions of himself had a deeper being and history than simply the Mad Sweeney that's in the present that we see. So Oshun implies that Bilquist is more than the Bilquist that we've seen, and it's not clear if was an Orisha, is a version of Oshun, is a similar goddess from a different belief system, but it's clear that she is more than she even remembers. And it's a very powerful scene. The dancing is beautiful. These two do an amazing job. It's Horizon as Oshun and Yetide as Bilquist, and they just have this, it's beautiful dance. So if you haven't seen this episode, watch it. And then we get to the very end of the episode. Laura is back in the land of the living. She's eating food. She's excited. She can taste it. She's got a sad box of Sweeney's ashes with her and more romantic flashbacks and all of that kind of thing. And then she says she's going to go see a man about a song because she can't remember that song that was playing that was from her childhood. And she's hitchhiking along and she sees what she thinks is Shadow's light, even though she's now a real living human being again. She sees Shadow's light and she's kind of oh, she still has this power. And then it turns out it's like a neon sign. And she heads on north in a truck. And that is the last of that episode. It's a really packed full episode. So wow, that was a lot. And so now we're going to look at tonight's episode, which I have it on good authority that it is going to be, I haven't seen it yet. I'm going to watch it at 8 o'clock Eastern and be live tweeting at the Emily ESSE. But I have heard that it is a favorite of some of the folks who were in it. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen. And I know that, Shadow is I assume that he and Bilquist are going to get together and meet up at some point. I assume he and Tech Boy are going to find her. So this probably would be the episode where they do. I can't imagine they'd stretch it out too much longer. And Bilquist, you know, is a different Bilquist now because she's danced with Oshun and she's got some different remembrances of herself. And so that's going to be interesting. And I want to know what's going to happen to Tech Boy. You know, he's had this team up with Shadow, but now, you know, I assume if they find Bilquist, Tech Boy is going to be cut loose to do his own thing. So we'll see what happens. Wednesday is still dealing with Demeter being stuck in this retreat. He may or may not be crazy. He may or may not be pulling a long con, which is more likely in my opinion because he's Wednesday. And you know, I think that we'll see what happens with Laura too. She's heading north. I assume she's going to find Shadow, but we don't know exactly what she's going to do next. So that is probably what we're going to see tonight. I'm looking forward to watching it with anyone who wants to watch it with me. And I think we have a trailer from American Gods Stars, you know, account that we're going to watch real quick before the end of this. So take it away. All right, so it looks like, you know, Shadow's going to be exploring his purpose going forward, and that's what we're going to see tonight, along with everything else I was opining about, probably, possibly. So, you know, come back on the Twitters at the Emily ESSE, hashtag AG chat WEMMNSU, and, you know, chat with me about what's going on when we watch the show.